Thomas Green here with the Peaceful Parenting Podcast. On the call today, we have Jake Morgan. Hello, Jake.
Hello.
And a special guest by the name of Casey Waesche. Casey, welcome.
Thank you. Hello.
Would you like to take a moment and tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure, thank you. So my name is Casey Waesche, and I've written a children's book called I'm the Boss of Me. And it's a little book about teaching children how to be accountable. Yep, that's the one. How to be accountable for themselves, personal responsibility. Along with that, they can learn to count numbers, make animal noises, learn colors. And that's what I've done. I've authored a children's book.
So in the call that we had initially before actually recording, you gave me an update of how the book was going, and I thought it was very impressive. So do you want to share that in terms of how it's being received?
Absolutely, thank you. So I wrote the book. Well, I wrote the book 13 years ago with my then 7-year-old son because he was being mouthy and talking back to teachers. He's since gone off to university. He's at the number 7 university in the U.S. on an academic scholarship, which is a big deal over here because it's hard to pay for colleges nowadays. When he went off to that, I ended up taking the college money I was going to spend on his university, and I plugged it all into this book. I'm self-publishing it. I don't have a publishing deal. And when you do something like that, you have 2 ways of making a book. You can do print on demand, which I didn't do, or you can make thousands of copies, have them delivered to your doorstep, and then sell them yourselves. And that's what I did. And I originally started out with the first run. I'm almost completely out of the book now. I ordered 1,020 copies. That's the lowest amount I could order. And I only have about 200 left. And I got the books delivered to my doorstep on February 10th of this year. So I'm having a hard time keeping up with the demand. It's fantastic.
Amazing.
I certainly think applause is well, I think you deserve an applause for that. So well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Really good.
Yeah, the thing that was really neat was I had a child psychologist, a renowned child psychologist out of Washington, D.C., Dr. Amy Parks. She has 3 different practices. And after I had done the book and I had it printed and I had 1,020 sitting in my living room, I asked her if I could just get her professional opinion. I probably should have done that first, but I didn't. That's what happens when you self-publish. You don't necessarily do things in the proper order. So I dropped a couple off at her house. She was in a meeting and couldn't, talk or anything. So I just put a couple in a bag, dropped them on her doorstep. 2 hours later, she texts me and says, I need this book. I need many copies of this book. I need to get these into every preschool I can. I want to buy 120 right now. And I said, oh, of course, yes, you absolutely can do that. And so she did. A couple days later, she texted me, I'm going to probably need 120 more. And we've just kind of been rolling that way ever since. I have a sponsor preschool program where people buy the books and have them donated to preschools that they want the children to have this book. So I think that's part of the reason that it's doing so well is the teachers and the child therapists and psychologists and childhood specialists are just saying this is a book that every child needs to have, which is kind of funny to me because I'm just a mom who was trying to get my son to not talk back to teachers. I don't have an educational degree. I don't have a psychology degree. I just had a rascal of a son, and he inspired the book.
So did she tell you
University of Life?
Important? Why was it important to her that she got this book in the hands of other children?
So she pointed out, and a lot of teachers have pointed this out, I had 2 things I wanted this book to be. And that was to have personal accountability. So a child learns that I'm the boss of my mouth. I'm the boss of saying nice words in a friendly voice. I'm the boss of eating good food. I'm the boss of, in my son's case, keeping his mouth shut. That That was the whole point of the book. And then the other thing I really wanted was to have diversity. So having, every single skin tone in there so that any child could pick up the book and see themselves and say, hey, that ear looks like my ear. I have a page of just ears. And then they can say, oh, well, if I'm in this book, I can be the boss of me. So those are my two main points. What Dr. Parks and a lot of teachers and a lot of childhood specialists have said is, well, the other thing that's really important about this book is it teaches body autonomy and body safety. Meaning, if I'm the boss of my body, I can tell you, no, you can't touch my body like that. And it's a way to protect children from predators and from all kinds of different things. So it was on top of the responsibility. And Dr. Parks is so funny. She said, I know a lot of adults that need to read this book. And it was all about the, personal responsibility and accountability. But the unknown, happy kind of happenstance that happened was I ended up with 3 themes: the personal responsibility, the diversity and inclusion, and then the body safety. So that's what they're saying. And, I'd love to say I thought of that from the get-go. That was my genius mind at work. It wasn't, but I'm really happy it worked out that way.
So if you had to explain
how
it to
did
a
that come
child-
about then? Sorry.
You go ahead,
Sorry,
Jake.
Thomas.
You go ahead.
Too polite. I was just really curious about how that did come about then, because you said it wasn't your genius. It was I guess a process.
Yes, it was. So what happened was, again, it all goes back to my son. My son was and is very, very smart. And he would get in fights with the teachers, not physical fights, but he would say things like, if the teacher said we were going to recess at 10 o'clock, at 10:03, he would raise his hand and say, you're a liar. You said we were going to recess at 10 o'clock. It's 10:03. You lied to all of us. I actually got that note home. Could you please have him not tell the whole classroom I'm a liar? So here's what happened. So on a particular night when I got one of these, I started calling them my love letters from his teachers because there were just so many of them. I came home, read the letter, and I just said, Owen, why do you keep doing this? And he said, Mommy, it's not my fault. My mouth made me do it. And I said, well, you need to be a better boss of your mouth. And then it hit me. I wasn't teaching him personal accountability. I wasn't teaching him that he's responsible for the things that he's saying and doing. And granted, he was only 7, but I needed to get on top of that. I mean, you can't learn that easily when you're 20. You need to start as early as possible. So we went into this study. We pulled out some pieces of paper. I put a different body part on the top of each page. Like I wrote hands, feet, mouth, ears, and then handed them to him and said, okay, draw a picture. Can you draw a picture of these, please? And he drew a picture of them. And then we started talking about, what each thing should do, like hands. Hands can hold something gently. They can clap. They can snap fingers. And we wrote all those things down. And then we talked about what you shouldn't do with your hands. You shouldn't hit. You shouldn't grab. You shouldn't punch unless you're boxing. So we talked about all the different things that you shouldn't do, but I didn't write those down. I only wrote down the things you could do. And I went on to different body parts with your feet. You should stand still. You should walk fast. You should run really fast. You should skip. You can jump rope. All the different things you should do with feet. Kick a soccer ball. Kick a football. Kick not people. So talk about all the different things you could do with your feet. And then my whole plan in this, parenting moment that I was doing was to get to the mouth and to talk about what you should and should not do with the mouth. So again, nice words in a friendly voice, eating vegetables, saying I love you, in all these different things. And then we get to the end of it and I was like, you know what else is a really good thing to do with your mouth? He said, no, Mommy, what? And I said, you should keep it quiet in the classroom. And the other thing we had done was mind, what your mind should do. I still have this cute little 7-year-old picture of a brain. It's the cutest. I have the entire book that we wrote, actually, that original one. And we said the mind needs to think nice things. The mind needs to be in control of the body so that it doesn't do things. We talked about all the really neat things that a mind can do. And so we ended the entire process with, and the mouth should be quiet in the classroom and say nice things and let the teacher teach the students and, all the other things. Stapled it together, and then went to bed that night. He did not change overnight. The next morning, he did not walk into school and stop being a rascal. It took several instances, actually several years, of really talking about what being a boss of yourself is, and learning that personal accountability, and learning that the only thing he is in charge of is himself and his reactions to everything else and everyone else. So I started at 7 with him. It's ended up pretty well. He's a good kid. But once he went off to college and I now had college money to do whatever I wanted with, I told him, I said, hey, honey, I'm going to finally write the book. And he was all excited. I hired an artist. I self-published it, but I wanted to get the kids younger. I wanted to help them and the parents that are teaching them learn this language of personal accountability so that they can build their self-esteem. They can practice just having a wonderful life and being the boss of their successes and being the boss of their failures. That's something I think super important. So if you don't fail and can't get up from failure at home, you'll never be able to do it out in the real world. And there's tons of failure out there. So that's one of the things that I'm hoping kids can learn to be the boss of. I have 37 working titles right now. And I just came up with, I'm the boss of me and my failures a couple days ago. That's one that we have to write. I'm the boss of me and my failures, and that it's okay to fail. So that's how it all came about. My son came home with another note from school.
My question before you asked yours, Jake, was going to be, how would you convey that to a child, that message? But of course, it's the book. But it segues nicely into what you said about your working titles, and that is, Jake has teens. So how do you plan on conveying the message to teens about being the boss of themselves?
So it's going to be individualized with teens. And the reason why is this little book is all about young kids and just general concepts. By the time you have teenagers, you need to sit back and say very specifically, because they're smart and they're going to ask questions and they're going to want to know why. So what you do is I'm going to write a book called I'm the Boss of Me and My Homework. And in that, I'm the boss of me and my homework. I'm the boss of writing down the assignment. I'm the boss of bringing my books home from school. I'm the boss of setting up a workspace where I can do my homework and won't be, bothered. I'm the boss of making sure I get it all done. I'm the boss of making sure I bring it back to school. I'm the boss of turning it in on time. So you make them be the boss at each individual segment of success. Now, if they fail, let's say they did all the homework and they didn't bring it in. And then, so they did everything except they weren't a good boss that one time of bringing it in to turn it into school. Well, that was a failure. So how are we going to address that failure? We're going to go, oh, okay, you made a mistake there. What are you going to learn? This is a learning opportunity. You will get a lesser grade maybe because your teacher won't allow the same grade because it comes in late. Maybe you can problem solve. Call up your parents and say, hey, have you gone to work? Can you bring it in? It's on my desk. They're all different opportunities to learn, fail, but be the boss each time. I know when I was in high school and such, I wasn't great at turning in my homework. I really wasn't. It was I could get things done, but bringing it in was my biggest issue. So if I had had the opportunity to sit back and say, you know, oh, well, I always had an excuse. Oh, I was late. I was rushing out. I didn't have breakfast. Well, I need to be the boss of making sure I have breakfast. I need to pinpoint each place where failure can happen, be the boss of it so that I can be successful. So there's also, I want to do, and by the way, I plan on doing these with industry thought leaders. Because again, I don't have a degree in education. I don't have a degree in homework. I don't have a degree in a lot of things, but I'd love to get somebody to help co-write with me. I'm the boss of me and my friendships, and talk about with teenagers, talk about what a good friend is, how to be a good friend. You know, I'm the boss of boundaries when in those friendships, you know, when a friend is overstepping their boundaries, or if a friend is being unkind, you know, how do you react? How do you be the boss of that situation so that you feel empowered as a teenager to take responsibility and say, you know what, we're going to have a conversation. I feel you haven't been treating me well. I noticed that you've said some things about me, not hurt my feelings. So are you going to be able to stop doing that? Because I will forgive you. But if you're not going to be, you know, if you can't stop talking about me, or whatever tragedy it is that a teenager's going through, then I'm going to be the boss of that boundary and say, you know what, thank you for the friendship we had. I don't think it's going to be a good friend situation for me anymore. And it's just a nice way for them to take control of their friendships and setting boundaries and having self-esteem and being able to say, well, they were my best friend. They didn't treat me well. I'm going to go find a new best friend. So that's the sort of thing I want to do, is build it up into, right now I'm at board book preschool. We're going to move into, you know, elementary school, middle school, high school, college, grown-ups. I'd love to have grown-up books, like I'm the boss of me in my car. You know, when to
Oh yeah, that's definitely needed.
right? It used to be 100 years, well, not 100 years ago. I'm not that old, but you know, 50 years ago, people could take apart their car engine and put it back together. They knew how to do all that stuff. Now, and I'm guilty, I have no idea how to change the oil. I just take it somewhere, they do it. But in doing that, I need to know, they put a little sticker on my car window. They're the boss of when I get my oil changed, not me. So, you know, there's all kinds of things we can do just to keep this going. I'm the boss of me in my recycling. I'm the boss of me in my vacation. That, oh, that's a book I need to write. That's a book I need to
Yeah, that sounds like a good one.
right?
I see what you mean by many adults need to read this book as well. But one thing I was going to say when before we recorded, and that was about receiving the book, which I loved getting it in the post, was that I didn't pass it to my little one yet because I was afraid I wasn't going to get it back again in time for our call. But when I do sit down with my 3-year-old and read it to her, any advice on the best way to go about doing that, other than reading it, obviously?
Yeah, so especially with little ones, and the younger they are, the less into the words they are. So here, I have one here. I'm going to pick it up. If you look on the first page, I'm sorry, there's a bit of a glare. There's on each page, there's a little animal in the corner. They're numbers at the top. The children are in different colored shirts. So you can read the whole thing. I'm the boss of me, from my head to my toes, my mouth, ears, and nose, la, 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 la. It goes on, it's very cute. But what you can do is go, oh, do you see the little boy in the yellow shirt? What does he have on his shirt? And make it very interactive. So it's not just you're reading the story, you're talking about things. Oh, look at the doggy on the bottom. What does a doggy say? And so things like that. Hold on, I'll get to some other pages. Oh, this is one of my favorites. So if you look, this is my mouth, ears, and nose page. And you can see I've got braces on there. There's lipstick, everyone's smiling. There's a bunny down in the corner because it's on the same page with all the ears. There's a green ear. You can say things like, do you have green ears? Are you sure you don't have green ears? Where's your ear? Point to your ear. So exactly. So there's all sorts of things you can do when reading a book. My son loved books when he was little, before he could read or anything, but I kind of got bored of them. You know, you say the same thing over and over again, and you just get into this rut. If you can make it a full experience, a game, you can point to different letters, like capitalize. Oh, like my son's name is Owen. So anywhere there's an O on a page, I'll say, oh, Owen, look, there's an O for Owen. He's 20 now, so if I did that, he'd be furious. But the little ones really enjoy a full reading experience. So that's what I'd suggest. I'd suggest really making it as interactive as possible, and not just reading it. Asking what the animals say. Like, there's an octopus in there. I have no idea what an octopus says, but you can count how many tentacles the octopus has. And I should know this. I think there are only like 5 showing, but you can say there are 5. There are going to be 3 more off the page. So they're just fun things you can do to really, really make it an experience. At the end, there's a lion. And some of the kids, people send me videos of their children reading it. And some of the kids at the end do a giant lion roar and point to the ends, I'm a great boss of me. And then they point to the lion and go, rah. And I think that's great. I think we want them to love books and love reading and love the experience. And I made this book because I wanted it to be one that I would want to read over and over and over again with my children. And I've had one, and he's nowhere near making me a grandparent yet. He better not be. But when that finally happens, I want to be able to read this over and over again and find new things each time to just get excited about. So that's what I would do with your 3-year-old.
Love the enthusiasm, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Brilliant answer. Yeah.
Does Owen like the book?
He does. You know what's so funny? He's not in it. He is so mad at me. I sent it down to him at college, and I'm like, "Look, honey, it's done." And he's like, "Hey, which kid am I? I don't look like any of these kids." And I was like, "Funny story. You got edited out." But the fact I didn't think to put him in it. I was a bad mom. I got all focused on the book. So I have the next book. We're almost done with editing. It's going to be out in July. He has a page to himself. He's the only one in the book that has eye colors. If you look at all the people in the book, they just have little black dots for eyes. On this one, page 18, he's running up a hill with his green eyes and his brown wavy hair. So I up to him.
And what's the next book?
There you go.
The next one is I'm the Boss of Me, a primer for kids, a reminder for adults. And it's going to be for, 1st to 2nd, 3rd grade. It's it's actually the board book that you have right there, exactly the same. And then an additional 16 pages that kind of finishes off the story. And I have even more diverse children. There's a little girl on a trampoline that ends the whole book. And we have pirates. We have, what else do we have in there? We have a superhero. So it's going to be very exciting. The kids that are seeing it now are loving it. I just have a couple more tweaks that I have to get with the illustrator on, who's amazing, by the way. I can't say enough wonderful things about my illustrator. He's Oscar Stashwook. I don't want anyone to hire him because I want him to keep working. But anybody who wants to hire him, he's amazing. He's brought my words to life. But I just have a couple quick little things. I got to switch an animal in one corner for another corner. And hopefully I'll have 1,020 of those on my doorstep in July.
Well, I can certainly see from everything that you've said, I can see why it's so successful and why it's so popular. It kind of makes total sense to me.
Yeah, everyone's telling me the timing is perfect. That this is what kids need. Again, a lot of grownups need to be accountable for their actions and their words and things like that. So it's kind of hitting a nerve with people in a good way. So I'm very excited about that.
Have you got anything to add on how someone can be the best boss of themselves? Just general principle.
Sure. I think the best thing to do is look and watch yourself. Like, see what you're doing. One of the things that when you're being the boss of yourself, you're being observant. You're recognizing your role in things, both the good and the bad. So if you're in a situation where everything's going right, well, you're part of that. That's awesome. If you're in a situation where things are going sideways, well, you're part of that. How do we fix it? How can we sit back? So being observant, knowing what you're thinking. Really, I think one of the best things you can do is be the boss of your brain. If you can be the boss of your brain, you'll have a lot more success in life. And different people do that through meditation. They do it through prayer. They do it through reading. They do it through art. They do it through singing. Whatever they need to do to be the boss of their brain so that they can observe and see what they're doing. I think that's going to be a nice recipe for success. I'll have to talk to the psychologist about it. I'm not sure.
Have you got any goals for the book?
Yes, I plan to take over the world, one boss at a time. just something simple. I do. I'm in the process of getting it translated into different languages. Somebody's working on Russian right now and Spanish. Where I live, there's a huge Ethiopian population, so we're trying to get it translated into Ethiopian. And the real thing, my real goal truly is to get this in as many children's hands as possible. So that's why I set up the sponsor the preschool program. If I win the lotto tomorrow, I won't need it. I'll just print them and I'll just deliver them in every single, school and daycare and family. And when you take your child home from the hospital, you'll get a blanket and the book. It'll be great. I haven't won the lotto yet, so I still have to come up with ways for the printing. But the goal is truly to get them everywhere.
How do you say "I'm the boss of me" in Spanish, Jake?
Soy el jefe de mí mismo. I suppose. I don't really know. I'd have to ask my wife about that.
Yeah, I had one person say, soy el jefe primero de mí. I don't know.
De mí, yeah.
Yeah, ask your wife. Let me know if she wants to translate it.
Yeah, will do. I think it's great what you're doing, and I can really see the enthusiasm it's shining through. And I think that the effect that this has had on you must be pretty amazing too. I mean, it must have made you look at yourself in a different way. So you really have become the boss of you, right?
Yes, I have. I say I'm just a mom, and I don't think that's fair to moms, because I think being a mom or a dad is one of the hardest things and most amazing things you can do at the same time. But this really was just a little pet project for me and my son, and that's why I included him in the second book. But it sparked joy in my life, and it's given me, this has been a crazy year with the pandemic. This has given me a wonderful purpose. This has given me just amazing stuff. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I'm actually a cancer survivor. So when I recovered from surgery, my husband said, well, you don't have to work. What do you want to do? And that's when I decided I wanted to be the boss of me and make this book finally come true. After talking about it for 13 years, finally was able to make it happen.
Well, congratulations for surviving cancer, and also congratulations for finding a real purpose in life. And I think so many people never do that. And I really see the value in the book, and I can't wait to see you being a huge success and having all these other books that you've talked about coming out. Now, I wish that this had come out when my kids were the age of your kids, Thomas. So I think that'd have been fantastic.
Well, I'm sure there'll be a one along for you soon, Jake.
Sounds like it.
Well, Casey.
Well, teenagers definitely.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, teenagers need it more than anybody at this point in time. You know, they're about to be launched out into the world. They've had everything teenagery happen to them. And all at once, they're supposed to be grown-ups, but their minds aren't there yet necessarily, but they think they are and they feel they are. So I would love to get a specialist help me write a couple different books specifically for teenagers. I'll give it a shot, and it won't rhyme as much, but it will definitely, you know, I would love to help teenagers get through things that, you know, I remember being a teenager and I wouldn't go back for the world. I had a ball, but I would not go back for the world.
Yeah, it's an interesting time.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Where is the best place for people to find you and also to buy the book?
So at my website, which is www.imthebossofme.com. So it's just imthebossofme.com. You can get the book. I just got puzzles. I just had 250 puzzles delivered to my door on Tuesday. So there are all kinds of fun little things that you can do. The superhero puzzle is there and a bunch of others from the new book. But the book and lots of books and all kinds of fun little accoutrement that comes with www.imthebossofme.com.
Great. Jake, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
No, I just wanted to say that I think what you're doing is inspirational in you know, so many ways. I think you know, it's empowering for you to turn an idea that you've had sort of simmering in the background for so long and actually turn it into reality. I think is absolutely commendable. And on top of that, clearly there's real depth to it, and it's obviously really, you know, a really great thing to be sharing with young kids, and you know, helping them learn and understand what it is to be a better person in life, I guess, and be the best person they can be. So yeah, I think it's great. Really impressive.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, yeah, I was going to say also, love the enthusiasm, and I will give you some feedback from my little one about the book, and
Yes.
see whether I can actually get my hands on it again, or whether it will be kept like as the favorite book from now on.
Well, that's what ends up happening. Kids that weren't interested in reading pick up the book, and the whole concept, right? I'm the boss of me, as opposed to, you know, they always say, you're not the boss of me. Well, now they get to say, I'm the boss of me. The kids won't give the books back. They could walk around with them, and it's not a book about being bossy. It's not an instruction manual on how to be bossy. It's an instruction manual on how to be the absolute best boss of themselves, to become the best person that child can be, whatever that child wants to be. That's the goal.
All right, Casey, well, thank you very much for coming on and sharing your book, and I will speak to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me, gentlemen. I had a great time. And yes, let me know what your little one says. I can't wait to hear.
I will. She's in a bit of a mood by the sounds of it. So giving her a little bit of a present, and also the stickers as well, I think that will help. So you may have saved the day a little bit there, Casey.
Well, I try. One day at a time. That's all we can do.
You succeed.
All right, then.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.